Good morning. How y'all doing? Y'all sounded so good. That was awesome. And praise team, thank you for that. So good. Well, y'all, we're gonna. I want to begin this message. It's going to be on gentleness as we go through the fruits of the Spirit. We got one more week. If y'all enjoyed this series, the 9, if y'all enjoyed that, it's been really good to be. It's been really good to be a part of it, and so thank you for your attentiveness, and I hope it's made sense, and ultimately I hope it can lead us closer to Christ, because that's what's the point of it all. So we're going to begin this talk, and I want to begin this talk with like a pop quiz, which I know is exactly what you wanted to do. Like the first thing you wanted the preacher to say when you got here was we're going to do a pop quiz, but I think you'll be okay, and we're going to be in the topic of physics. And so I know a lot of you are great physics majors. I can tell just by looking at you, this is going to be right up your alley. It's going to be perfect. But it's just going to be a pop quiz just to see how well you remember what you learned in school. And I don't think it'll be real hard, but here's the question. What is the hardest substance on earth? What is the thing that is most durable, most resilient, the toughest substance in the world? And here's what I want you to do. I want you to just take just a second. First thing that came to your mind. Tell your neighbor, well, you're a cheater, and you get an F who did that. I'm just teasing. Yeah, it's diamonds, isn't it? Yeah, you applaud for yourself. That's all you get. Applaud for yourself. It is diamonds. That is correct. It's the hardest substance on earth, and I actually tried to check it this week. I tried to Google it, and there's a man-made substance that actually is tougher than diamonds, but you can't even pronounce it, so it doesn't really count. So in nature, diamond is the most durable substance on earth. And the top 3 go like this. It is boron suboxide. You don't have to write this down. Boron nitride, and then diamonds. Diamonds is number 1. And you may not be familiar with the boron elements, and really they're like used to like surface coatings because it can withstand high temperatures, and you can break it down into an acid form, and it essentially kills like roaches and ants. So that's what boron is. And we all know what diamonds are, right? Diamonds help couples stay in love with each other. Especially when you say something stupid. That's what diamonds, they're good. They're good help. So good job. All right, so you did pretty good on that one. But I just want to suggest, I think that there is something that is even stronger. I think there's something even more durable and more resilient than any of these elements. And can I tell you what I think that is? I think it's people. I think people. Human beings just like you and just like me. And there are organizations that actually that keep track of such things like human strength, like how strong we are. And there's one organization that believes that the strongest man in the world is a guy by the name of Jack Wooten. And he lives in Massachusetts, and he's in his 50s now, and he's 6'1", he's about 290 pounds, so it's a big old dude. And apparently, he has towed a Mississippi River boat against a current. He has piggybacked an elephant. He has stopped 2 jet planes from taking off by holding them down. And he has pulled a 280-ton train along a track. And when he was interviewed, he says he got his start like in the strongman business when he met a man in his 70s. Listen to this. He met a man in his 70s who taught him how to backlift an elephant. Can you just picture that for a moment? A 70-year-old guy backlifting an elephant. That's strong, right? But that's not the kind of strength that I'm talking about. Let me just give you a few examples. I've got a friend in my family. His name's Mark, and I've known Mark since I was a little kid. And Mark has a son named David. And David was born with severe physical and mental limitations. And so this means basically that David has never really been able to walk. Never really been able to say anything more than just a couple of words. And I guess he's in his 20s now, I guess. Is that right? And for almost his entire life, he's been fed every meal by his mom or his dad. And he has to be pushed or carried everywhere that he goes. And Mark and his wife, Donna, they're just regular folks. Like, they're not bench pressing an elephant. They look like you, and they look like me. They're just regular folks. And yet when I watch them with their son David, I just become convinced that they are the strongest people in the world. I just believe that every day that I watch them, that their lives are a testimony to how strong they are. I've got another guy, a guy that he was a roommate of mine in college, and his name's Jesse. And now if you look at Jesse, and some of you have met him, if you look at Jesse, he is a big dude, and he actually is a strong man. He's a power lifter. That's what he does. That's actually what he gets paid to do. So he is a power lifter, and he's a big, strong, tough dude. But that's not why I think he's strong. Physically, he's a monster, but Jesse has a speech impediment, and it causes him to stutter severely. And if you never had a conversation with someone who stutters, it can kind of catch you off guard. It can kind of catch you off guard, and so you got this big guy, Jesse, and you have a conversation with him, and sometimes it's real hard for him to get words out. And, you know, we lived together for a few years as roommates, and we would just sit and talk some nights, and he would tell me, he would say, Ethan, man, you know, I used to use my speech impediment as a crutch to be lazy. And he says, I don't want to do that anymore. And now when I look at his life, he's one of the most motivated people I know. In fact, he's even worked his way up to like the head physical trainer at a major university. And that took a lot for him to do that. He got his degree in kinesiology, and now he's one of the trainers and one of the head trainers of a major university. And he does what he loves. He gets to help people. And it's crazy, too. He deals with people every day, so he's always talking. But he deals with people, and he helps them reach goals, like physical goals. And he loves what he does despite his weakness. And when I watch Jesse and the ways in which he deals with adversity, I just become convinced that it's not about how much weight he can lift. I'm convinced that he is the strongest person on the planet. And you know people like Mark and his wife Donna, and you know people like Jesse, people who have faced overwhelming odds, who have endured major setbacks or maybe illnesses, people who survive abusive situations, people who survive physical limitations, and yet they rise above it somehow, right? They rise above it. They survive. They conquer, and it doesn't matter what the world might throw their way. And their stories remind us that the strongest, the most durable, the most resilient substance in all the world is people just like you and me. It's human beings. Human beings. Now, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Can we do that just for a moment? Now, what do you imagine is the most fragile substance in the world? Do y'all see where I'm going? It's people. It's people. It's people. And it's this weird dynamic, right? That at the same time we can be the strongest people in the world, and you know people who are strong, and I know that you're strong. And yet also, at the same time, we can also be the weakest. And the truth is that people, and I've got to be honest with myself, that people deep down are fragile beings. Do y'all remember the rhyme that we learned as a kid? Maybe you can help me out with this. It goes like this. Help me out. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And all the king's horses, all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. I did that pretty good. And that's the way we are, right? We're like Humpty Dumpty. We're fragile. When we fall, we get broken, and it happens. It's hard to put us back together again. Sometimes we're even pushed, and when we're pushed, we end up broken, and we end up bruised, because the truth is you and I are fragile people, and we get broken in all sorts of different kind of ways. Y'all did pretty good with Humpty Dumpty. Let's try. Can we try one more? I think you know this one too. It's from our childhood. It goes like this: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me, right? And that's full of crap. Don't ever teach your kids that. That's true, right? And we used to say that as kids, and now that I've gotten older, man, words hurt, they pierce, we use them, and I know how it works. I know how it works because I do it sometimes, and it's with the people that we love the most, and because of that, we know exactly what to say to pin them against the wall, don't we? I mean, it's true. It's true. We know exactly what to say, and we end up hurting, or we end up hurting someone, or we get bruised, we get broken, and it hurts. It hurts. Now said all of that just for a side, and so instead of thinking about people, think about just some of the objects that you have in your house, and I know that some of you have some really valuable objects in your house. I know that you do. So let's think about that one for a minute, okay? So when Rachel and I got married, we had to register. We went to register to these stores, right? Y'all know how that works? So we go to the store, and I thought we were just going to register for some towels. And I end up sitting in front of this salesman who plops like a 7,000-page book of fine china in front of me. And I end up spending the next hour of my life flipping through this book. Like I couldn't be any more outside of the realm of what I know than when I registered. For China. I don't even know if we've actually ever used it, man. I know we've moved a couple times, and every time that we move, we put this china that rarely gets used, if ever, and we put it in the fragile handle with care box. You know what I mean? And I know that you do it, and you bring these items out on special occasions, right? And maybe you do this. Most days we just use just regular everyday plates or glasses. I actually like the red Solo cup. As I sing Toby Keith, that's what I like. I'm just a simple guy, so I like the red Solo cup, right? But on special occasions, like on a birthday or anniversary or holiday or something big like that, you'll bring out the fine china. It's so funny because we're so careful that we take it out, we take carefully out of the cabinet, and then we carry it very gingerly across, and we set it very nicely on the table, right? And then after dinner's over with, we wash them individually, right? But we hand wash it. You never put china in the dishwasher, right? So you got to be real careful with it, right? And we do all of this to ensure that none of these treasures are ever dropped or chipped or broken, and it's always interesting to me. Now, I've just been trying to paint a picture in my mind of what it would be like to break something. So just put yourself in this story, okay? This is what I got. So imagine that you're at a family member's house. Let's say it's Thanksgiving, right? Okay, so it's this big deal. A lot of people are there. You're at your family member's house, and they're going to use fine china, and you are the person asked to set the table. All right, you got it? Big deal. You're the one. You're going to go set the table, okay? And so you walk over. You got to be real cool about it. You walk over to the china cabinet, and you gently open up the cabinet, make sure everything's good, and you pull out a plate. But you get a little clumsy, and when you pull out the plate, you accidentally hit a glass, and the glass falls, and then you try to catch the glass, and when you try to catch the glass, all the plates fall on the floor, and they crash and they smash all around you. How would you feel? How would you feel? Embarrassed? But embarrassed? Bad? Yeah, that'd be bad, man, right? That'd be I try to think of a more uncomfortable situation, and that's about as bad as it gets, right? It's about as bad as it gets. And I think you feel that way is because you know that this is valuable, and you hate the idea that something that was entrusted to you, that you were supposed to do this, right? And you were supposed to take care of this china, and you know that it's valuable, and yet it was dropped and it was broken, even if it was by an accident. And to you, the idea of that happening, that's bad, and we feel that deep in our bones. I've been thinking all week of what I would do if that actually happened to me, and I've concluded that I just wouldn't say bye to anyone. I would just leave. I'll see y'all next Thanksgiving. I'll just leave. But you'd feel bad, right? And just for a moment with me, imagine how God feels. Imagine how God feels when one of his treasured possessions is dropped or broken or mishandled in some kind of way. And if people were just as fragile and just as easily damaged, wouldn't you think that we would go out of our way to treat them with extra care and extra attention? The truth is, over and over again, it seems like we do the exact opposite. We're clumsy with people. We're rough with people. We're insensitive to maybe what they're going through. We're inattentive in a lot of ways. And sometimes we do it by accident, and sometimes we do it intentionally, that we treat God's most treasured creations as if we're just ordinary, as if we just don't have any value whatsoever, as if it doesn't matter if we're dropped or crushed by some way. Paul writes in Galatians, and he says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness. Gentleness. And that's what I want to talk about today. You say, what's the big deal about gentleness? What is the big deal? Write this on your outline. Number one, gentleness helps me see people the way God sees people. Gentleness helps me see people the way God sees people. None of us are ordinary. None of us are ordinary people. Just think about that for a moment. None of us are ordinary. That every living, walking, breathing human being that you and I have ever encountered is an extraordinary treasure in God's eyes, and it matters. It matters a great deal every time one of his treasures is mishandled. And so you and I are called to do what is required of us when we are handling these precious gifts, and it is to use gentleness. And gentleness describes the way that we are to live with one another, how we are to handle and care for people. And remember that when I talk about fragile people, I'm not talking about someone else. I'm talking about you, and I'm specifically talking about me. That's what I'm talking about. And Paul writes a letter in the New Testament to this church at Colossae. It's the book of Colossians. And Paul kind of gives us a picture of what that looks like. And he says this. It's on the screen. It's in Colossians chapter 3. Paul says this. He says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues you put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." I love that passage. I love the way it starts. Did you see how it started? And this is on the next screen. I love what he says. He says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved." You were chosen. I was chosen. And we've been selected that we are not just ordinary people. You understand? Rachel and I celebrated our 3-year anniversary earlier this month. And I was out shopping for a gift, and I was taking a lot of time on it because I just wanted it. I wanted it to be right? I wanted it to be the right gift. I just wanted to show how important she is to me. And so I was taking a lot of time. And the truth is because I knew that the vacuum cleaner that I got her last year just on a whim was an awful gift to give her. And so I wanted to make sure that this year's gift was awesome. And so I spent a lot of time, and I got her an extension hose to that vacuum cleaner. And it's the best thing that she's had all year. Been pretty good, right? Not really. I definitely did not get it. But when I go and get her a gift, I want to be intentional about it, right? I want to take time. I don't want to just wing it. I want to take time like that. I've thought about this, right? And that's the way God has chosen you. He's been real deliberate about it. And he has careful specifics in his mind when he chooses us. And then after choosing us, the Bible says he sets us apart. Now, I don't know if you feel very holy today. Like, I don't know if you walked in these doors and you just felt holy, all right? But the truth is you are holy. And you've been chosen. And you've been set apart, and you've been given a place of honor. You've been given a seat at the table because, as the text concludes, you are dearly loved. And it doesn't matter if you don't feel very lovable today. You may not feel any more lovable than you do holy, but the truth is that doesn't change anything, because in God's eyes you are loved and you are cherished. And there's nothing in the world that you can do to ever change what God thinks about you. Nothing. And we say that all the time from the platform, because the truth is I'm just convinced that many of you don't believe it. You don't believe it. You don't really believe that you're chosen. You don't really believe that you are holy. Maybe you really don't believe that you are loved. So we repeat that. I've got a 2-year-old, and his vocabulary is expanding, but it's expanding to the word no. And he says no all the time. That's all he says is no. I said, "Do you want a cookie?" "Nope." "Really? Because you always ask me for a cookie. I bet you really do want a cookie, but you're just going to say no." "Okay." I said, "Do you want to watch Nemo?" He says, "No." "Really? Because we watched it 17 times over the past 2 days. I bet you could probably watch that one more time, right?" "You want to play on the iPhone?" "Nope." "Do you want to read a book?" "No." "But you love reading a book." He said, "No." And so once a week he stays with my grandpa, and it's so funny because my grandpa has caught on to the fact that he says no all the time. So my grandpa will call him over. He'll say, "Avery, come here." And Avery will go over there. And he'll roll up a newspaper, my grandpa will, and he'll say no. And Avery will say, "No." And my grandpa will pop him on the head. It's cute, though. I mean, it's just a newspaper, right? It's just cute. And he'll pop him on the head. And he said, we don't want to say no. And then he'll say, Avery, say yes. And Avery will say yes. And he'll rub him on his head, and he'll say, good job. And then he'll give him his weight in goldfish to eat. And so he just keeps on giving him goldfish. But the whole idea is he wants them to say yes. I don't want them to say no. I want them to say yes. And it's funny enough, this has been a few months now, but it's almost as though he's starting to believe that saying yes is better than saying no. And it took a lot of repetition for that to happen, but now he's kind of starting to get it. He's kind of starting to get it. And maybe it's going to take a lot of repetition for you. And that's why we keep telling you over and over and over again that God loves you. That you are holy and you are chosen. And I believe that. And this is just an important truth to believe, because you see, in order to practice gentleness, we first need to see ourselves and to see the world around us the way that God does, and that's as chosen and as holy and is dearly loved. And when we do, when we realize how God sees the world, then we begin to treat people as the valuable treasures that they are. And that's called gentleness. Second thing is this, write this down. What's the big deal about gentleness? Well, gentleness is power. It is power that is under control, used to benefit someone else. Gentleness is power that is under control, used to benefit someone else. And, you read what Paul writes, and he describes it as though we put on like a cloak, like we literally clothe ourselves with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience, and we're bearing with one another, and we're forgiving one another, and love is binding it all together in perfect unity, just as the family of God should be. And then in another letter, Paul would write, he says that we're to be gentle with one another, to be sensitive, to forgive one another as quickly and as thoroughly as God in Christ has forgiven us. And the word that Paul uses for gentle in both these passages is funny. It doesn't really translate well to English, right? Obviously, it wasn't written in English. It doesn't translate very well to English, and literally it's a word that describes having authority and having power, but holding that power in restraint. I love that thought. Gentleness is having power, and yet we hold that power in restraint, and instead we demonstrate a humble and a kind attitude towards others. Gentleness is power that is under control, used to benefit someone else. That gentleness, in a sense, is taking that part of us that enables us to be the strongest substance in all the world, and we use that to care for the most fragile things in the world, and that's people. It's people. And that's the way that you and I are called to handle the people that we meet throughout the course of every day. When we check out at Kroger, when we're the waitress at the Waffle House, our children, our parents, our friends, the people that we work with, our classmates, whatever. Anybody that we encounter, we're called to handle them with care. We're called to handle them with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness. And we're called to discover what their needs are. And then when we discover what their needs are, any power that we might have to fill that need, we need to fill that need. That's what gentleness is. We assign a lot of labels to people, and I don't like labels, right? I mean, you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, or like maybe I agree with one person, one idea, and suddenly I'm in that pool, because that's just how we think about people. We label them and put them in groups. And I don't really like that, but I think if God were to label us, all of us, you know what I think he would do? I think he would stamp right on our forehead, fragile, handle with care. That's what I think. And wouldn't it be great if we saw that in people that we met every day? Wouldn't that be awesome if we could see that they were fragile? I think we would want to treat others as God would treat us, with love and compassion and gentleness. That's a good thing. Power that's under control. Write this down. Number 3, gentleness. Simply put, gentleness is following the example of Jesus. Gentleness is following the example of Jesus. I don't know how to make it any more plain than that. To follow Jesus in his life, in his words. And we've said from the very beginning of this series of the 9, of the fruit of the Spirit, love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and faithfulness and gentleness. All these aspects are going to be born in our lives as we draw close to Jesus. And here's the good news. Can I tell you real good news? Jesus is not a bully. I believe that. Jesus is not a bully. He's gentle, and he handles us with care. Jesus did not bully people during his earthly ministry. He was gentle with them, and he handled them with care. Jesus was moved with compassion for people who were bullied, people who were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd, Matthew says. That's why people were drawn to him, especially those who had been the outcast of society, especially those who people labeled as, hey, you're not good enough. That was right up Jesus' alley. And lepers would come up to Jesus, and they weren't even acknowledged as people in society, and yet they would come up to Jesus, and Jesus would gently touch them. Or little children would come up to him, and the disciples would try to shoo him away, but they were just welcomed by Jesus into his arms. To a woman caught in adultery with whom the Pharisees wanted to stone to death, Jesus gently said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Now go and sin no more." To a ragtag bunch on a hillside, Jesus would say, "I'm here to proclaim good news. I'm here to set the prisoner free. I am here to release the captive." It's the year of the Lord's favor. And then when they nailed Jesus to a cross and they spit in his face, the Son of God, do you know what he said? He said, "Father, forgive them. They don't even know what they're doing." That's the way it works with gentleness. It's the nature of his relationship with us, and he has all the power in the universe to do as he pleases, and he holds it in restraint. He holds it in restraint so that he can carry us in his arms, and he takes the power that spoke the world into existence that we spoke of a couple weeks ago, and he uses that power to pick up fragile human beings like you and me and to put the pieces of our life back together again. That's what gentleness does. He would say things like this. He would say, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and I am humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." See, when we stay close to him, that's how we relate to one another, and that's in gentleness. And, I believe more than anything in the world, I believe it makes a difference, and it can make a difference for you. It can make a difference for you. Would you bow your heads and would you pray with me? God, we love you. We love you that you are a gentle shepherd. That when we get lost, and when we get broken, and when it seems like our lives have gone down a path where we will never recover, God, you are the God that puts us back together again. You are the God that gives us a new chance at life. You give us hope when we don't have hope. You offer us grace when it seems there is none. You offer us forgiveness when we don't deserve it. And you lead us to find a better way. And you never promise us that our life's going to be smooth sailing from here on out, because we know, God, that it's not, and yet you are with us. And we thank you for that. I want to lift up the Village Church to you this morning. And for the people here whose hearts are broken, because I know with an audience this size, God, that there are hurting people here. And you already know everything about them. And my prayer is that they will find peace. And they will turn to you when maybe they've tried everything else, and they'll turn to you. And you'll heal them. You'll put them back together. God, I pray that the relationships that we have with one another, the people that are most close to us, our family and our friends, God, that we will learn to be gentle with them because you're gentle with us. That we'll learn that that's a better way to live. God, ultimately, as we draw close to you, these fruits of the Spirit, this love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and faithfulness and gentleness, self-control, all of it, God, that we'll begin to bear those fruits in our life, because it is a better way to live. It's a better way to live. Thank you for who you are. We love you so much.